So anyway, what we're going to talk about here with Dr. Shiva, when I met him, I'll tell you, when we met, I met all of these people, everybody, on divine appointments. Everyone you've seen, or from different parts of this, it was like, I met him at a rally Freedom Rally, but I would have all these people brought to me at different planes, right? Like Doug Frank, all these different ones. And we met, and I go, wow, he had a story, something. He goes, Mike, we met. I didn't even know what he had or whatever. We were there to speak, and then he tells me his story. He starts telling me a little bit of it, and I'm going, wow, and it was about, you're going to hear his story. But then I brought him to absolute proof, to be an absolute proof, and I bring him down there, gathered all these people. We filmed it as fast as we could to get it out before the impeachment trial, and I started finding out his stuff goes deeper and deeper, because he's not only was one of the smartest men I ever met, but he also decided he would run for office. And with him, with what he's done, he's been his own lawyer. You're going to hear all this, and all kind of, so he doesn't sound grandiose. He went out there to fight when he ran, and they said he lost, and he knew he didn't lose, and he fought and fought and fought, and he's still fighting. I just found out stuff back there. He tells me all this new stuff you're going to hear, and I go, I don't even know you. I mean, it's every week. It's like things change, and he doesn't give up. This man is a patriot. And I'd like you to hear a story, Dr. Frank.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Shiva.
Want me to go there and do it, or
yeah, you can do it there. Yeah, sure, if you want.
So, first of all, I want to give a hand to Mike Lindell. I don't think people appreciate enough what Mike is doing for this country. He is creating a megaphone for the voiceless. So I really want to applaud you, Mike, for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I give the glory to God. We're going to get through this, and you're all part of it. Thank you. God bless you.
So what I would like to do, if it's okay with everyone, take about 15 minutes of your undivided attention. And I want to walk you through the journey that I've been on since September 1st. And that journey will reveal to all of us that the First Amendment has been obliterated by the elites. And that we all need to let go of our rose-colored glasses, and we have to win back freedom. So that's what I want to talk about. And the journey I'm going to take you on, I'm going to share with you a couple of diagrams, okay? And we'll bring that. Doug, we don't need to put that up yet. We'll bring that up because let's bring that up shortly. But let me begin by giving you the start of this journey. My journey begins many years ago in a small village in India. I grew up India has a caste system. You guys familiar with that? So we were considered low caste untouchables. You won't find a lot of Indians like me in America. The fact that my parents came here is about 1 in a trillion. So I grew up in the working class neighborhoods of New Jersey, and it's there where everyday people taught me the values of this country. Hard work, right? And you reap what you sow. And that led me to, as Mike said, to MIT, where I got 4 degrees, started many companies, invented the world's first email system when I was 14 years old, before I came to MIT. But more importantly, it was in 2017, I decided to first time run for office. People like myself, scientists and technologists, we're not supposed to run for office, right? But I decided that what was going on in this country was inappropriate. People like Elizabeth Warren I'm from Massachusetts, and we ran against her. And we ran on a campaign which said only the real Indian can defeat the fake Indian. It was a good campaign, all right? But we learned a lot. What we learned was that those in power want to divide black and white, right? The liberal elites are the real racists. So people like Elizabeth Warren there is a racism. People use race for their own advancement like Elizabeth Warren did. Anyway, we learned a lot running that. But in 2019, I decided to run as a Republican in the Republican primary for US Senate again. In Massachusetts, there's only one party. The Massachusetts GOP colludes with the Democratic Party. They're one. All right, there's no two parties in Massachusetts. So when I ran as a Republican, no one wanted to support us. But we got 3,000 volunteers all over Massachusetts. We raised $2 million, all on Twitter. And you could not leave Massachusetts without seeing one of our 20,000 lawn signs, our bumper stickers, huge billboards. We were everywhere. The GOP found, frankly, some guy to run who no one even knew about, probably was offered a judgeship or something, okay? But that was a model that was run. Well, on September 1st, 2020, the word on the street was that Dr. Shiva was going to win on a landslide. We were everywhere. And you can talk to people, probably a number of people here, even it was a national campaign, meaning people from all over the country donated to us. So on September 1st night, we get the results rolling in. And what do the results show? Well, the results show that we win in a county called Franklin County, which is all hand-counted paper ballots, by 10 points. And in every other county, we lose 60-40, 60-40, 60-40, 60-40, 60-40. All of those other counties have electronic voting machines. Now, I never thought election fraud took place in this country. I thought that only occurs in third world countries, right? And so that began my journey to understand what was going on, right? So I put my hat on not as a politician, but as an MIT systems engineer with 4 degrees, a PhD in biological engineering, a master's in design, my computer science bachelor's. And what I discovered was 2 very important things by September 9th. One of the things we discovered was that state election directors in the United States, Republican and Democrat, were deleting ballot images. What are ballot images? When you go to the voting booth, you can vote 2 ways, right? You can vote on paper, and it's counted by paper. Probably the best way to do it. The other way is your ballot gets put into a machine. Those machines scan that paper, and they make it into an image. Got it? That's called a ballot image. And then that ballot image is run through the technology to determine your votes, right? So the machine is looking for those dots with its AI engine and determining what the votes are. So what is it using? Is it using the paper or the image? It's using the image, right? So the image at that instant becomes a ballot. So we go to the Secretary of State and we said, look, we want the ballot images. And we had a video camera with our volunteers on September 9th. And the individual at the state election official, he says, we don't have those images. We turned that feature off, which means they get deleted. All right? The default setting is save all images. So they had deleted the ballot images. So I had to formally apply for what's called a public records request. And on September 24th, we get back emails from the Secretary of State saying, we don't have to save ballot images by state law. Well, this is a federal election. According to 52 U.S.C. 20701, which was passed in 1974, you must save all records generated in connection with a federal election. Okay? You can write that down, 52 U.S.C. 20701. All records generated in a federal election must be preserved. So I write back to her in an email and I say, can you show me the state law that allows you to get away without saving federal election images? She doesn't write back. She diverts it to sending me some other documents. I said, you have violated federal law. This election is null and void. So I have these 4 emails. We have about 300,000 followers on Twitter. It's a public official. So those 4 emails I put up on Twitter. Within hours of putting up those images, that's on September 25th, I'm thrown off Twitter. Now you have to understand, I'm still a U.S. Senate candidate in a federal election in a write-in campaign in the generals. So just close your eyes and think about what I'm saying here. A United States Senate candidate is thrown off Twitter in the middle of his federal election because he exercises free speech rights, which were critiquing the election official. And what was the platform of our campaign? Stop election fraud. Okay? So our entire campaign is stop election fraud. We're running on a campaign against election fraud. We had held 4 major protests at the Secretary of State. We expose the fact that they're violating federal law, and we get thrown off Twitter. Okay? Let that sink in. Remember, the highest protection of the First Amendment was political speech. Citizens United, which was a very important case law, which was Citizens United versus FEC, the Supreme Court ruled that the 30 days before the election are the highest protection of speech. It doesn't matter whether you're lying or not, whether even you're saying false stuff against your candidate. You are allowed to have open speech. All right, so that happens. I try to find a lawyer. Now, this is what happened. Mike knows these guys at Lead Stories, a quote-unquote bogus
Alan Duke and Martin.
Yeah.
He's over in Belgium. We talked about that earlier. These are the guys that put covers over you on Facebook and Twitter. What they did to Absolute Proof, and they contains porn and nudity. These are the guys. These are the terrible people that have done this to our country. Alan Duke and Martin that Lead Stories. And this is where I found out. This is where we collaborate on that.
So Lead Stories isn't. So I had put up a tweet, which was going viral at that right before that. There's a tweet that I did which has these 4 emails exposing the state election director. Right before that, I had done a tweet which said millions of ballots - ballot images were deleted. This organization, Lead Stories, does a hit job on me. Oh, Dr. Shiva's lying. No ballots were deleted. I never said ballots. I guess they don't know how to read English. I said ballot images. Now, one of the interesting things they did in that story was they said they interviewed the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State had said they had contacted Twitter to silence me. Let me repeat that again. Government official had contacted Twitter to silence a U.S. Senate candidate. Got it? First Amendment, I guess they didn't read it. All right. So when I saw that, I said, I have a serious First Amendment case. I can't go after Twitter. They're a private actor. I don't know enough about election laws, but I do know something I learned in 2nd grade when I came to this country. It was called the First Amendment. No lawyer in Massachusetts wanted to take on the swamp, so I had to do it. So I had to learn case law. I filed my own lawsuit. On October 30th, we had a hearing in federal court.
Hey, Dr. Shiva, there was one more thing, though.
Yeah.
They said that they had talked to you, didn't Lead
Yeah,
Stories?
yeah. So Lead
he's
Stories...
missing a piece there. The liar Lead Stories. You gotta
Lead Stories said they had talked to me. They never spoke to me. Completely lied, okay? So on October 30th, I get my day in court. In fact, there were 2 lawsuits, one for monetary damages, and one I requested the judge, Your Honor, I'm running for office. This is my megaphone. Put me back on Twitter now. In that October 30th hearing on 2020, which was only supposed to be for 45 minutes, it ends up going for 4.5 hours. In those 4.5 hours, we were the first to discover in the world, in cross-examination, when the judge asked the state election director's communication director, so how did you decide to contact Twitter to throw off Dr. Shiva? She goes, we have a trusted Twitter partnership. The government has a trusted Twitter partnership. That means you and I carry the credit union card, and the government has an Amex Black card, okay? So in fact, we discovered they have a partner support portal, a VVIP portal. Government has a portal to big tech Twitter. So when I put up those 4 tweets, the government contacted Twitter using their special capability to silence a United States Senate candidate, a U.S. citizen. All right, so the judge was appalled at this, and he gave us all the terms of our preliminary injunction. He said, you will no longer stop contacting Twitter, but we also discovered something more interesting. It gets even more deeper, as Mike said. We discovered there's an organization called the National Association of State Election Directors. Write it down. NASED. This is a classroom in the First Amendment right now. Okay? National
you're all going to need
Association
this stuff for your states.
of State Election Directors, which is a government association of all 50 state election directors. So when I exposed the state election director, not only did she contact Twitter through their partnership, she picked up the phone and contacted NASED. NASED used the force of 50 state election directors to also contact Jack Dorsey. So I was targeted not only by one state election director, by 50. So the net of it was the judge in that hearing said more than likely Dr. Shiva will prove state action was involved. What is state action? That means Twitter is no longer a private actor. They are coupled with the government. Where government ends and Twitter begins, nobody knows. So that was, it was a big victory. Tucker Carlson didn't report on this because Tucker watches which way the wind blows, okay? Tucker does not report the news. He watches a year later when it's valuable to report on stuff.
Fox.
Shame on Fox.
Shame on Fox.
Yes. And I think it's important to understand that, okay? It's important in life to do the right thing at the right time, not when you get eyeballs. So anyway, that was October 30th. After I had done Mike's show, I believe in late January, on February 1st, I did a lecture. I was back on Twitter from November 3rd to February 1st. And remember, Twitter never touched me. I've talked against forced vaccinations. I've talked against GMOs. But on February 1st, once again, I shared those 4 email screenshots, once again exposing the state election director of Massachusetts. And within 17 minutes, I'm deplatformed. Okay, 17 minutes. We go back into court again on February 4th. And this time, the judge says, I cannot give you complete relief until you bring Twitter into my courtroom. Remember, we never went after Twitter. We weren't that, frankly, naive. We went after the government. With all the hype against big tech, in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a diagram. What everyone's going to realize is it's government tech. It's not big tech. It's government tech.
Hey, Dr. Shiva, one thing in there, because I want to hammer lead stories for a second. Remember, and then during this time, I felt, we had a common thing there. I was calling lead stories about something they had covered up in the summer with my friend Ben Carson, that he had said that he had took a therapeutic, and he had really said that. And it went on a show, and the guy, this guy on this show, actually, had said, yeah, it was in the news that Ben had taken this. So he said, yes, he took this. They took down his whole platform. Lead Stories did, the fact checkers from Facebook, put false information. I reached out to Ben. Ben actually talked to Lead Stories, Alan Duke, and they go, oh, I guess you did take it. So they took the story down, but guess what? That guy lost 1.5 million followers on Facebook. 1.5 million. They put up the fake thing on there because he had really taken it. So I was calling Lead Stories about that. And then Dr. Shiva joined me, and now what happened there?
Yeah. So what happened now is the judge now is even more concerned because he feels, I told you not to contact Twitter. What they had done on September 25th was when I was targeted, the algorithm was set up that any time I shared those 4 email screenshots, I would be deplatformed. So what happened on February 4th, we went back into court and the judge said, again, it's me against lawyers, no lawyers. Find out that's actually was a good thing. So on May 20th, the judge gives us the opportunity and he brings in Twitter. So it's me now against 3 of the three of the Secretary of State's lawyers in Massachusetts, 3 of Twitter's lawyers from Wilmer and Hale, one of the leading law firms in the world, and 1 from NASID. So 7 lawyers against me, okay? The night of May 19th, so May 20th is the lawsuit, I'm trying to figure out what is this Twitter trusted partnership, okay? We have filed like 35 briefs. Nowhere in there is anyone talk about it. And lo and behold, this is why I believe there's a God. On the midnight of May 19th, I find 4 documents on a server. Doug, can you bring that up? These documents are called playbooks. Playbooks, okay? Doug, you can just scroll down. So that's a playbook. It's called the Election Influence Operations Playbook, okay? Part 1. And Doug, go down. Stop right there. Go up, Doug. It was published at the Harvard Belfer Center. Go down, Doug, go to the, and This playbook is, stop right there, Doug, called influence operations. What is influence operations? This playbook defines the theoretical framework of censorship in the United States. It says an influence operator is anyone who has influence to change the narrative. Go down. Go down, Doug. So right there, you see, go up, Doug. Keep going up. Go up. You see a woman right there from the National Association of State Election Directors. Go down, a woman called Amy Cohen. Go down. And if you scroll down, there's people called Michelle Tassinari, who is a state election director. Okay? Go down, Doug. No, Doug, you have the wrong one. Anyway, and go down, Doug, all the way down. Scroll down. Oops. Go up. Twitter legal. Go up. Right, oh, you went too far down, Doug. Slow down a little bit. Right there, Twitter legal. So these are books authored by elected officials in Twitter legal, which defines a theoretical framework of who is an enemy of the state in this country. Okay? Go to part 2, Doug. And part 2 is a manual for how, Doug, go to part 2 if you can bring it up. Part 2 is a step-by-step manual, okay? Doug will bring it up, which defines how you detect an influence operator. Step 1, you have to assess them. Doug will bring up the diagram, okay? Go down. And this is a handbook. Go down. No, Doug, just go down. Scroll down, please. Okay. Doug will bring it down. But the handbook says, step 1, how you identify someone, how you assess their level of threat for misinformation, disinformation, how you watch them, and how you will track them forever if they're a high-level security threat. There it is, okay? Doug, go down, okay? There it is, okay? So it says 4 stages of countering influence operations. This is not against Russia or China. This is against United States citizens. Okay? Go down, Doug. So there it is. So it has a step-by-step process, how you identify, how you assess. Doug, go down to where it says high, medium level severity. And when you follow this playbook, I was identified as a high level severity. Okay? Go down, Doug. So it gives how you identify keywords on people. Go down. How you assess them. Document, how you, go down, Doug, one more. Yeah, right there, stop. So I had an established voice, credibility, MIT, PhD, high volume. Go down, Doug. Next. Right, nope, go back, right there. Nope, you had it on high, stop. So high, medium, low. If you're a high level security, you're put on a watch list for the rest of your life. Okay? And so what occurred on September 25th? It was triggered, and they were following me all the way until the next 4 tweets came. All right, so we present this to the judge on May 20th. The judge is frankly, concerned. And on May 21st, he said, and it's all, by the way, all of this is public. He said, at 10:30 a.m., this hearing went on for 2 days now. He goes, this lawsuit more than likely will be a law school exam in every constitutional law class. And he asked me if I wanted an attorney, because you've done this all on your own. All right. Doug, bring up the long fuse report. So the next hearing was set for July 15th. Between this point and July 15th, we find this long fuse report, which was published on June 15th. By the way, every major news organization should be carrying this. This is what Mike's doing is a huge service right now to the world. Okay? So the long fuse report, this is a 300-page report. The first report is a handbook of how you censor people in the United States. This report was written on June 15th by Stanford guys showing how great the playbook worked. In this report, I mentioned 22 times, I am considered the top 6 repeat spreader, and it validates that I was being surveilled since June of 2020.
Dr. Shiva, that censored report then, when you were the highest level, so you're talking that they, like Facebook fact checkers, like lead stories,
in fact, they work with those.
Everybody.
They work with those guys.
They work with lead stories.
The report confirms.
They work with them.
They are part of their infrastructure. So, Doug, go to that page I wanted to show you. Now, this report, Doug, go down to that page with the First Amendment. Stop right there. Stop. I want everyone to read this. Elections in the these guys are upset that America is a decentralized country. They are upset we have the First Amendment. They say it in black and white. It says, elections in the United States are highly decentralized. Isn't that the way they're supposed to be? Over 10,000 individual jurisdictions covering state, county, and municipal levels are responsible for administering the vote on election day. Voter registration systems and databases are centralized at the state level. Vote casting, in contrast, is organized at the local level. There is no centralized support to aid the vast number of jurisdictions in identifying and responding to emerging election-related misinformation, disinformation. They're upset there's not one centralized organization that can crush quote-unquote misinformation. They are upset that things are decentralized. Everyone following me? Doug, go down to the next page. And look what it says here. It goes, this is especially true for elections. Doug, you don't have to do that. I can read it. This is especially true for election disinformation that originates from within the United States, which would likely be excluded from law enforcement action under the First Amendment. And not appropriate for study by intelligence agencies restricted from operating in the United States. As a result, during the 2020 election, local and state election officials who had strong partner on election voting systems and overall cybersecurity efforts in CISA. This is saying that we need to create a centralized infrastructure to subvert the First Amendment, because if you're a foreigner, you can watch them, but you cannot. And it says that what we need to do is we need to create a non-governmental entity to launder censorship. Everyone following me? Okay, 300-page report, and it's looking back at the playbooks. Doug, can you find out where I mentioned? So 6 people are called repeat spreaders. Highlighted, myself, Donald Trump, Gateway Pundit, Newsmax, Breitbart, and James O'Keefe. Okay? So there they are. These are the people that they have problems with. Doug, go down to the place.
When was this published?
June 15th. But
Really?
it's looking at what occurred in the last 6 months from June 2020 to November 2020.
Look at that. I didn't even make the top 10.
Okay, go down. Go down. No, go down, Doug, to Shiva Ayyadurai. No, Doug, where it says, yeah, go down. Okay, right there. So they have a whole section on me. So why am I, so this is June of 15th. So when you go through this 300-page report and you combine it with the playbooks, Doug, bring up the image. So in our lawsuit, our lawsuit had evolved from October 30th, where we had just talked about the Twitter partnership. Then we find the playbooks. Then we find the long fuse report. And what this lawsuit shows is the woman that I was critiquing contacted that other woman, but look at, they had created this infrastructure. Doug, zoom in. Zoom into the playbooks. And these people, who are, none of them were elected by you or I. Scroll down, Doug. You see that, Doug? Scroll in. No, zoom in into the playbooks right there. They're Republican and Democrat. Do not excuse both parties. They're both part of it. All right? Both of them. So I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear left-right narratives, okay? Go down. So all of these guys at the Harvard, no, right there, go up. Those are the documents they created, which are the blueprint for censoring speech. Those documents created this infrastructure. The infrastructure is called ISAC, Election Infrastructure, created by held by a nonprofit called for the Center for Internet Security. Doug, go up to the left. Funded by Pierre Omidyar, who's a billionaire, okay? Left guy, but also supported up by the Murdochs, okay?
Fox
Left
News.
and right. Now, this diagram is not just some random diagram. We submitted it into a lawsuit, okay? But what you see here is these people who you and I never elected laid out the blueprint, which would say that if you're the State Department, if you're state and local officials or Homeland Security, and you have a problem with Mike Lindell or me, you will contact this nonprofit. They will call Twitter and suppress speech. It's called laundering censorship, okay? They think they're very freaking clever. This is the way that it was designed to subvert the First Amendment. This is what is going on in this country. It is no longer we have to fight for freedom, we have lost it. The First Amendment has been destroyed. And In our lawsuit, this woman, Stacia Cardilla, who's a deputy general counsel, scroll up a little bit, at Twitter, filed a false statement because she has to show that Twitter did it on their own. You follow what I'm saying? That the government wasn't involved. So she files an affidavit saying, on February 1st, when we deplatformed Dr. Shiva, we saw his tweet, we had our internal review on February 2nd. On February 3rd, we knocked him off after 3 days of review. It was total bullshit because I was deplatformed on 17 minutes at 9:48 p.m. on February 1st. So we submitted that in court. How did they do that? Well, the Long Fuse report says that they have 24/7 monitoring and 4-hour call centers watching us. Are you listening to what I'm saying? Yes, sir. This is the United States of America. And the reason we've gotten this far is because we keep electing. We have selections, not elections, as Mike is exposing today. We have selections, not elections. It is being done by Democrat and Republican, okay? And so this woman, Stacia Cardilla, the Deputy General Counsel, lied in federal court because I was deplatformed in 17 minutes, not in a 3-day review. Can you zoom out? What you're witnessing here is the domestic censorship infrastructure that was created against every American. I was a canary in the coal mine, a U.S. Senate candidate running for office. Next time, this will be used against any person running for Congress. Now, why am I sharing with you this? So this occurred to me running for U.S. Senate. But, you know, I'm also, as Mike said, I'm also a PhD in biological engineering. I also have talked about the issues of forced vaccination, that I do not believe that one-size-fits-all medicine, that not everyone should get the same vaccines. In fact, I believe there are many things in nature that are powerful, right? When I put up those tweets, those also get flagged by the same infrastructure. There's also the fact that if you talk about pro-mask or anti-mask, you get tagged. So what we've taken is every issue in this country is being operated and run and managed, the quote-unquote misinformation and disinformation, by a domestic censorship infrastructure. Yes, I invented email. Yes, I created EchoMail, other companies, but I can tell you what I'm most proud of is discovering this system. And it took a lot of heat to do this, and it wasn't done by lawyers. Lawyers will not do this, and in fact, where we are right now is we all have to wake up to the recognition that how do we solve this problem? Because if you take any issue, if you take masks, there's a pro-mask issue and an anti-mask. Pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine. Pro-election fraud, anti-election fraud. Pro-big tech, anti-big tech. But if you take any one of those issues and you take what I call a systems approach, we need to go back to a scientific approach beyond left and right. What you will find is that in any one of those issues, that you will find that there is a real problem. In the area of masks and vaccines, a real problem is public health. And how did we address public health? If you go back to the history of this country, it's when we built a movement, a bottoms-up movement, independent of left and right. In the 1800s, American workers rose up for basic infrastructure. In 1886, 4 workers were hanged in the United States. I want everyone to understand this. 1886, 4 American workers were hanged for fighting for the 8-hour workday. Everywhere in the world, that was called International Workers' Day. By the 1900s, American people, working people with the First Amendment and the Second Amendment were rising up. And that's how we solved public health. 15 years before the measles vaccine came, 18 years before, 98% of infant measles mortality was gone. Why? Because of infrastructure, sanitation, hygiene, all those things, nutrition. And that was because of a bottoms-up movement. And what's occurred today in the elites on every issue, they do not want us to ever address the real issue. They make a fake issue with a fake problem, or sometimes they actually take a real issue and they make money off a fake problem. That's what's going on, be it election fraud, be it vaccines, on all of these issues. So my journey to close out on this began running for U.S. Senate. And what I've learned is that we've lost the First Amendment in this country because Americans have become fat, dumb, and happy. We have forgotten the value of the First Amendment, and we've lost it.
That's
and
right.
The fact that this exists, just 1 minute, Mike. The fact that this exists, and the fact that I couldn't find lawyers to really fight for it, And the fact that I had to do it on my own, and the fact that Mike takes so much heat for what he tries to get out there, the fact that all of us do, so shows that we have to recognize the only way we're going to win this, and that's what I want to spend the last 30 seconds on. How do we win? The way we win is a bottoms-up movement. You know, it's a bottoms-up movement. Yep. It's not going to come from the Democrats or the Republicans. It's not going to come from these election systems as long as we have electronic voting machines. We need to go to hand-counted paper ballots. Election day should be a national holiday. We need to get our young people learning history and civics. We have a very fundamental problem. And it's not going to come from cursing at the darkness. We need to become the light. And we need to become the light by recognizing it's about truth, freedom, and health. Truth, freedom, and health. Without freedom, you cannot do science to get to truth. And without truth, you cannot find out what's good for our bodies or our infrastructure. And what's occurred in this country, they violated freedom with this crap. And that's why we are in this situation right now. And I want everyone to take the last part of my journey. This is my gift. Go to truthfreedomhealth.com. I've created a model where I want to teach everyone system science. Pierre Omidyar, if you go to his website, there are about 8,000 elites in this world who know system science. They know how to engineer systems to manipulate us. And if we don't learn how systems operate, we're going to be like, you know, bows and arrows shooting at people with nuclear weapons. And we're never going to win. We have to go beyond left and right, beyond Republican and Democrat. We have to expose the reality of what's going on. And the only way forward is a bottoms-up movement. We have to get rid of these electronic voting machines. There's no way forward with them.
What's your website again, that website?
Truthfreedomhealth.com. Everyone go there, because it took me 40 years to create the MIT distillation. I used to teach a course at MIT called Systems Visualization, where my students used to take complex systems and be able to visualize it. This time I had to use it for my own. But we have to understand the interconnections of things. As long as we're in the pro-mask, anti-mask. The real issue with masks is you put on a mask, it hurts your mouth microbiome. The real issue with vaccines, it's not one-size-fits-all medicine. The real issue with election fraud is we got to get rid of these electronic voting machines. Not all technology is good. And the real issue with big tech, it's not big tech, it's big government. It's government tech. It's
right on.
Jack Dorsey is just a slave to the government. Zuckerberg is a slave. So let's not think these guys, it's the government, Homeland Security, which has created this infrastructure. Thank you.
Yeah, isn't that something? So I will say this, great job. And Dr. Shiva, can you, what a hero that he dug in and found out what's behind all this. This isn't just China coming through the machines. There's people, these are domestic actors here that are involved.
U.S. citizens.
Jack Dorsey, lead stories. These guys, all of these, the cover-up. This is the absolute cover-up. And where we start, like you said, the ground up, this is what we're fighting right here. This is the start. When you got frankspeech.com, over 40 million people have seen this now and getting the word out. Get his word out. How many of you have heard this before you got here? This should be all over the news, everywhere. This should be everywhere in the world. Everybody should know this. Every single person should know all the stuff he just told us. We'll put his website up there too.
What's that? You can go find every document at winbackfreedom.com. It's your site. It's winbackfreedom.com. But most importantly, we're not going to win this if we don't we go beyond left and right. All of these issues have solutions. So go to truthfreedomhealth.com. I've taken 40 years, and in 2 hours, all of you can learn how to rethink about beyond left and right. So go to truthfreedomhealth.com. But most importantly, this infrastructure, this was a labor of love, guys. We have figured out the domestic censorship infrastructure, and we have to win back freedom.
Yep. And we do that with all of our voices. Like today, even though the mainstream media, all the media that is attacking, by them attacking, we're able to get more and more. I didn't even go. There's so many stories out there right now. Today, I couldn't even get through them all. I'm going, you got to be kidding. Everything from lunch is served late, and I mean, this is the stuff they're trying to do. But the word's getting out all over the world right here at this symposium. And when we come through this, the platform, the frankspeech.com, I was just telling Dr. Shiva, you'll be able to put all the stuff on there of stuff that's out there. It's like a united force to get our word out in spite of them, in spite of your Jack Dorsey. Look at my pillow got kicked off of Twitter. You know why? Because I was kicked off my pillow or Mike Lindell's Twitter. I needed to get the news out. This is when I wasn't in the news every day for losing. Mike Lindell lost 4 more retailers. And they go, did you hear about China and them attacking our country through the machine? This went on every day, but the bad media would call me. Every day they would call me. Mike, you lost 4 more. Mike, you lost your personal Twitter. Now, when I lost my Twitter, I didn't tell you this before. When I lost my Twitter, my friends go, and I didn't, and with Twitter, it was no big deal to me. I lost it. I'm going, well, I'll try this one over here. But when I lost it, I'm going, all of a sudden my friends are going, are you okay with the election? I go, what are you talking about? And well, look what you just retweeted. They were running my Twitter and retweeting like they were me.
Wow.
And I go, what? They're running. Jack Dorsey's running my Twitter. So I tried to take it down. I got a text message, it was an email from Germany Twitter, and it says, you have violated blah, 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 the Twitter code, and you cannot take this down. So anyway, then a couple of days I wasn't in the news, and so I go, how do I, what would make the news? Well, if I lost my pillow's Twitter, that might make the news. So I'm laying in bed, it's 12:30 at night, and I go, they haven't called me, the media hasn't called me for 3 days. So I get on Twitter, on my pillow Twitter, and I go, here's what @Jack, why he took down my personal Twitter. And the last thing that was posted on my personal Twitter was a thing from my director of my LindellRecoveryNetwork.org. Melissa had wrote this beautiful article because she felt bad I was getting attacked every day. So she put this article up, we put it up on Twitter. That's when Jack took it down. He didn't want even to hear anything good I was doing for the country. By the way, go to LindellRecoveryNetwork.org. It's free for anyone in addiction. It's free, and I believe it's the best online help ever. Let's put that in there. They can say, all Mike Lindell did was advertise. So anyway, I'm laying in bed, it's 12:30. So I put that @Jack, and I said, here's why @Jack took down my Twitter. All the bots and trolls are going, take him down, Jack, take him down. And I'm reading this. Now it's 12:45, and I'm typing. I go, he didn't take it down, right? I want to get to sleep because I want the media to call me in the morning. Gets to be 12:45. I put on another thing, @Jack, and I said something else. Still didn't take it down. The bots and trolls are, take him down, Jack. All of a sudden they go, @Jack, we all know you're in on this, and we're looking forward to the day you're put in prison. Boom, he took it down, right? So the next morning, it was the #1 news story in the world. My Pillow lost their Twitter. My Pillow lost their Twitter. Yeah, it was the start of hurting My Pillow. Yes, but I couldn't get the word out. So they called me out first thing in the morning. Mike, it was the #1 news story. Mike, you lost your company's Twitter, My Pillow. Did you hear about China attacking us? Did you hear about Dominion machines? It went on all day long for a week. That one was good for a week. That's the way they work. And Lead Stories, I want to go back to them because they're here. They have a representative here. Lead Stories, how horrific. How could you live with yourself when you're Alan Duke and this Martin from Belgium, 2 of the 4 owners, and all they do, they decide what to do. Now we just found out. They decide, I thought they were being subjective. They're ordered to do that. Here's the hit people. Here's the people we want to destroy because they're saying things we don't want to hear. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, Doug, so if you look at that, when you go through the Long Fuse report, right, it actually lays out their partners. So their partners include media. So if you want to take out someone, you basically communicate
Can you put that back
to the
up?
platforms,
Put the picture
to
back
other
up.
partners such as these media organizations and fact-checker organizations. The amazing thing that's happened with those people who run our country right now, they're telling you, this is how I'm going to censor you. They don't even care to hide it anymore. That's what's incredible. So the fact-checking organizations, the social media companies, they're all part of this ecosystem. So the playbook and that long fuse report lays it out in black and white, how they are going to censor you, how they do it, and it's a manual. So
and you know what? And you think about that. If you're a journalist, I was just talking to CNN up there when they were interviewing me, and then another one, and I said, do you guys get ordered from Jeff Zucker at CNN that you can't go to Dominion and ask him questions, or you don't care? You're here trying to hit me on the evidence and prove it and prove it. I said, I've already spent millions of dollars proving. I already got that. The only thing I'm doing here is I need to get the word out so that the Supreme Court and everything, when we bring it to them, that they will look at it. You got to have them look at it. You got to get the word out to the people. And I said to them journalists, I said, are you ordered, or why wouldn't you just go over and say, hey, Dominion, why are you hiding? What are you hiding? Why don't you just solve this and open up a machine or router and say, here, we've been innocent all along? Because they can't. And then I hear why I'm upstairs, that they're covering up stuff around the country as we speak. This is the absolute cover-up, and we see right here, if they got that, do they have that big page you had? Can you put up the big page, please?
The page is being hit so many times we can't even bring up the site.
Put it up. Put it back up.
Everyone's going to the website, so we can't even get to it now. Anyway, go to winbackfreedom.com.
Yeah. So anyway,
that's a good success.
The bottom line here is they've tried. They tried. I believe this is another thing. This is a miracle we're in, that they did all this, that the election manifested to this. This all goes back to this last year. It exposed everything. Just think if all this wouldn't have happened, and they would have just said, oh, the election and everything was fine, and we wouldn't have had all those deviations, we wouldn't be here today. And all this stuff that's getting exposed. We didn't know 2 years ago that Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg and all these people were involved in this stuff and covering things up. We didn't know that all the media, that journalists couldn't be journalists. This all actually changed with Donald Trump when he got put in. I know this because the media, when the media was darlings to me. If I would say, how many people you hiring today, Mike? 200 people. Everyone would show up. ABC, NBC, CNN, Fox. This is summer of 16, all the way from 2011 when I was on every channel, by the way, not just Fox. We advertised everywhere in this country. You couldn't get away from My Pillow. And there was the American Dream, ex-crack addict, now invents a pillow. Well, they would all come calling. Yeah, what are you doing now, Mike? And there they'd be. Well, the summer of 16, after I met Donald Trump in a private meeting on August 15th, I meet him, I go in there, he says, Mike, you make all your stuff in the U.S.? And he goes, I go, yeah. He goes, I'm bringing the manufacturing back. And we talked about my ex-addiction. And he said, I'm going to stop the drugs pouring in. Well, I left there, and I couldn't wait to get back to Minnesota and say, hey, I met Donald Trump. I said, and I put out a press release. I didn't even tell him what we talked about, everybody. And for the first time, I was attacked viciously. I put out the press that was called a racist. I was called things. My friends are going, what? What do you mean? The bots and trolls, they took My Pillow from an A+ to an F. I didn't understand it then. But now I do with what he's talking about. They were already putting hits out there to remove, not for Donald Trump not to win, and it didn't matter who stepped in their way. It didn't matter if you were some pillow guy. It didn't matter. They're out to crush everyone in their way, and that's pretty sad. And what doesn't make sense is the journalists with the journalists. The journalists that are out there now, I would just ask two things. Why don't you cross over? Our country right now this is it. We get one shot at this. If you're a journalist, if you're working for any of these outlets that you can't say, maybe you're getting orders from above, or maybe you're someone out there that with Dominion, maybe an employee that you did there. Now's the time. You want to be a hero? Save our country, help save our country, and come over to being with the people. That's what has to happen here. You're one of these guys on the board telling them, yeah. You're one of the guys on the board up here. If you're feeling guilty, you should, because our country will be gone, and you're all part of it. If you're Alan Duke for Lead Stories fact checkers, or Martin, quit worrying about if my evidence is there or not. Quit trying to discredit because two roles were the same. Why don't you try and save your country and say, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this anymore, this cover-up, and China attacking our country. So, but Dr. Shiva, what a hero that he found all this on his own. He had better things to do, didn't you?
Important to understand, you know, I run other businesses, have many other things to do, but this was a important activity because it's a very small way for me giving back to this country that's given me so much, and I'm compelled to do that. But there's many other things that, you know, people like Mike or I could be doing, but you can't. It doesn't matter if you don't have freedom, because without freedom, you cannot get to practice science, which gives you truth, and without truth, you can't get to find out what's right for our health. So it's really important to understand that freedom is the basis of even practicing science. So as a practicing scientist, that's one of the things that motivates me, because without freedom, you can't have debate, you can't have discourse. And the reason the United States is such a great country is because of the diversity of ideas. So what these guys are actually doing is they want to destroy the economy of the United States. Because what it ultimately does is when you constrain, when you censor, you don't have the vibrancy of crazy ideas, bad ideas, good ideas in the marketplace of ideas. And it is from ideas we get great science and great innovation. And it is innovation that gives us wealth. As a data point, the one university called MIT created 33,000 businesses. Those 33,000 businesses generate $2 trillion to the GDP every year. So if you want to follow the money, when you censor people and you silence people, you destroy the economy, because you destroy ideas and you destroy innovation. And the United States was built on innovation. So where this is really headed to is, yeah, you may have black people, white people, yellow people all hanging out at Harvard, quote unquote diversity, but they're all on the same board talking the same thing, agreeing with the same thing. It's not diversity of skin color, it's diversity of ideas. And without diversity of ideas, you don't get innovation. Without innovation, you don't get health, or you don't get wealth. So that's
Dr. Shiva, could you? I got another 5 minutes with you, because you said something before. There's the thing back up.
Yeah.
When you talk about this censorship, think of where we're at now with just the vaccine alone. Now, you being a doctor and you've looked into that, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Whether you like it or not, they're forcing people to make businesses, small businesses, that say they have to make a choice whether to follow what these politicians are doing. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, so if you actually, in 2003, when I went back to MIT to do my PhD, it's in a field called systems biology. And one of the reasons I went back to do that work was I was brought up really appreciating natural medicine. Okay, my grandmother was a traditional healer, so I believe in these. I've seen the power of natural medicine. The problem is in Western science, if you can't prove it, they say it's just hocus pocus. So in 2003, when I went back to MIT to do my PhD, there was a development called systems biology. In 2003, what we learned was that a little worm has the same number of genes as a human being. Up until 2003, we thought a human being had about 1 million genes and a worm had 20,000 genes. It turns out us and a worm have only 20,000 genes. So what makes a human being more complex? It's not the genes, it's the interrelationship of the genes and the proteins. So that created a new field starting in 2003 called systems biology. So when I went back to MIT, the goal was, could you use this new biology to mathematically model the human cell on the computer? So I spent 4 years doing that. That was my PhD. I created a technology called CytoSolve. So why am I telling you this? One of the biggest things that we learned by 2007 was the right medicine for the right person at the right time. There was a new field that emerged called personalized and precision medicine. The big pharmaceutical companies, the way they work is they try to create the same drug for everyone. And what's been happening, how many people, let me ask this question. How many people think pharma companies have been making money? How many people think they've been losing money? How many people think they've been losing money over the last 10 years? How many people think they've been losing money? Well, no one raised their hands, but let me tell you. For Pfizer, for example, since 2012, has lost nearly $25 billion. In 2012, they made about $65 billion, and in 2021, they made about $43 billion. So pharma companies have been losing money because what is a drug? A drug is a single molecule that doesn't exist in nature, like ibuprofen, Advil. So pharma companies have been losing money. Massive regulation. It takes 15 years to get a drug through the market. You got to go through testing. Vaccines don't require anywhere near the amount of testing. 17% growth. And you can't sue vaccine manufacturers. All right? Thank you to Ted Kennedy and Orrin Hatch. They passed a law which says you cannot sue vaccine companies. So imagine this. You want to enter an industry that is highly regulated. You can get sued, which is big pharma. And now there's this industry over here. You can't get sued. You got to go to a vaccine court. You don't have to even prove the stuff works because it's considered a biologic, not a vaccine. So what's happened is the pharmaceutical makers have wanted to move into the vaccine industry. All right? It's follow the money. So what's happened is in the last 4 years, they've executed on that plan. So a multi-trillion-dollar industry is burning down called old pharma. They need to move into vaccine manufacturing. So that's the first thing, Mike. The second thing from a scientific standpoint is one size does not fit all. That's what came out of 2007 in systems biology. We need to move to the right medicine for the right person at the right time. What Mike needs to take for his immune health may be very different than what Mark needs to take versus what I need to take. Our chemistries are different, our biologies are different, etc. What they want to do is to give one-size-fits-all medicine. So from a scientific standpoint...
Isn't it true, though, too, last summer, when they had all the hydroxychloroquines, I had something brought to me, Serotinib, all these things. I had a friend of mine, very high IQ, and he went out there, and he said there was over 30 things that worked that helped people. Now, is it true that, because this is what I've heard, that in order for them to have an emergency use, there couldn't be anything else out there that worked? Now, this is what I heard, so they suppressed that so that it would only be one thing. And, I mean, it should be, your choice, whatever you want to do.
Well, more importantly, Mike, in 2019, to any of the news people, I'm considered one of the leading guys on the immune system in the world. The National Science Foundation in 2019 had me deliver their prestige lecture on the immune system. So if you go back to 1962 when the National Vaccination Act was passed, we had a very two-box model of the immune system. It said, you create antibodies or you don't create antibodies, okay? You have the innate immune system and the adaptive, and that was it, 2 boxes. So the whole goal of immunization was get antibodies. That was why 1962 Vaccination Act. Well, we know today the immune system isn't 2 boxes. You have your gut microbiome, you have the interferon system, you have the gut-brain axis. We have 6 trillion cells, but we have 300 trillion bacteria and viruses, okay? We are a walking jungle. So the point is the immune system is a very complex system. So it's not just about antibodies. So the entire vaccination model is just boost up antibodies and you're okay.
So why would they, if everyone's got a choice to have it or not now, what's wrong with that choice? Why do they keep doing, like I was in Nevada and they're offering people money to win a lottery to go take it?
Mike, imagine if everyone said everyone's got to buy pillows. Like you can't live without a pillow, you have to buy a pillow. Pillow manufacturers would love it.
They'd all be looking at me going, that's a bad rule.
Right. No, but what I'm trying to say is, if you try to say everyone's got to get vaccinated, you have just created a wonderful, complete monopoly for vaccine manufacturers. So forget all the thousands, tens of thousands of years there are antivirals in nature that have existed. Forget the fact that you have the gut microbiome, which you can beef up, right? Forget the fact that you have the interferon system, which goes and unleashes natural killer cells. There are people who don't have any antibodies, but they have completely strong immune systems.
You're saying it could be money behind it because they were losing money for years. There is. Whoa.
No. The bottom line is vaccine industry is growing at 17%. Pharma, drug industry is crashing and burning.
Right.
It's the only way out for vaccine manufacturers. Pharma, they need to move into vaccines. And think about it. Imagine, Mike, you were in the airplane industry and you didn't have to do testing. If your planes fell out of the sky, you can't sue them.
Right.
That's what vaccines are.
But then why would the government be telling? Why would they care about that?
Well, let's talk about politicians. Who funds them? Okay.
All
I mean,
right.
when you look at this diagram,
that's what I'm
what you
saying. Look
realize
at the
is where
diagram.
government ends and where Twitter begins, nobody knows. Where government ends and where Moderna begins or where Pfizer begins, nobody knows.
Right on.
That's
All
what
right,
we've
thank
actually created.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr.
Sure, you're
Shiva. I
welcome.
want him
Thank
to
you.
put in there because he's knowledgeable and everything. This a hero. He is a hero. You're going to see a lot more of him. And thanks, Dr. Shiva.
Thanks, Mike.
God
Okay.
bless you. Thank you. You guys, awesome. He's a hero. He's a
Thank you.
hero, everybody. Absolute hero.